Um, I have a lot of labels and diagnoses. I've made quite a collection of them over the last 20 years. I am an addict, an alcoholic, um, a self-harmer, an anorexic, a bulimic, and I have borderline personality disorder. So this is the collection that I started building over the last 20 years. And as you can imagine, the behaviors that come from that kind of accumulation of problems have been life-threatening. I'm very impulsive, self-destructive. I became very manipulative during active addiction, put myself in a lot of very dangerous situations, put my health at risk to quite serious degrees. And I have, my first inpatient admission was to an eating disorder clinic in 2006. I was studying and I had to drop out of my degree. And it was a 6-week program and they kept me for 12 weeks. That was how bad I was at the time. And my nature at the time, I was 24. I wasn't willing to get better. I was there. Part of me wanted to get well, but the addiction to being a victim and associating worry with love is something that has run through a lot of my counseling as a pattern to break. And I was not willing to define myself as healthy. I still define myself by these labels. And I left treatment and went straight back to my behaviors. I used to abuse diet pills. And when those were taken off the market, it was a natural progression to street drugs. Maybe not for some, for me and for the company I kept and the lifestyle I led. It became a way to control weight, and then it became a means to an end, and then it became my life, all my life. Everything about my life revolved around drug use. And I've seen over the course of 20 years, I've seen 11 different therapists, so clinical psychologists, counselors, therapists. I've had a couple of psychiatrists. I either went in desperate and quit because I started getting well, quit because we didn't connect, quit because I wanted to go back to old behaviors, quit because there was no connection, quit because their methods I didn't agree with, or I found an excuse to just discontinue getting help. And the situation that led me to this round of help seeking was I put down drugs a couple of years before I stopped drinking, and the alcohol took me out, and I ended up in hospital, and I was told, you get help or you go on the liver transplant list, and you will be on the bottom because you've done this to yourself. So you either stop bullshitting or you die. And I was sent to, I went into inpatient treatment for addiction. And it was after 3 weeks there, to 6 weeks there, they recommend secondary treatment. And the counsel I was working with at this first facility wanted me to go to a specific secondary treatment center purely to work with Nikki. She said, you need to see this person for you to have any chance at staying clean and getting well. And I was pretty desperate. I had given up on anything ever working, so I thought I'll give it a shot. And I went and I spent 6 weeks inpatient with her, 14 months at a halfway house, still seeing her. I will be 3 years clean and sober next month. I've seen her every week ever since. Yes. By the end, I had numb patches in my limbs. My teeth were rotten. My hair had fallen out, about 60% of it. My nails were snapping off. My skin was flaking. And I had gastritis, esophageal peritonitis, colitis, and I used to vomit and shit myself on a daily basis, usually at the same time. I struggled to walk, and the secondary problem with all of the swelling and bleeding in my esophagus is that I'm on chronic medication. Borderline personality disorder requires lifelong medicating in many cases, in severe cases, which is me. And for a year before I went into treatment, I couldn't keep medication down. I couldn't really keep food down. I couldn't keep water down, in fact. So any medication I did manage to keep down would cause such severe chest pain that I was too afraid to continue taking it. So I was off my medication for about a year, and myself unmedicated is a dangerous, violent, rage-filled, pathetic person. I lost a lot of relationships. My brother stopped speaking to me within his rights. I don't hold any resentment for that. He and his wife cut me out of their lives because I embarrassed them. I treated them unfairly. And I isolated myself from everyone and everything. I was lonely and filthy. You mentioned motivation. The level of depression. I would shower once a month. I'd brush my teeth if I was lucky once a week. I'd wash my hair once a month. I lived in a kind of filthy body in a filthy cottage, completely despairing and afraid and alone. But to take the step to make the change, I made my first sort of appointment with a random psychologist 2 months before I actually showed up. I kept skipping it, canceling it, not turning up. I was so afraid to get well and so physically ill. A lot of the times I couldn't actually pick myself up off the floor, let alone drive and see an appointment. So that was the state I was in. I've never managed my emotions well. Part of that I can blame on being borderline, but the other part you can attribute it to a lot of things. But basically, my addict mindset was to blame other people, and then to feel so guilty and shameful about trying to blame other people that I would then turn it on myself. And my rage often came out in self-harm, which is an addiction in and of itself. I mean, the physical state I allowed myself to get to was out of contempt for myself, complete loss of respect or self-worth, which all comes from just this rage at, I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw a complete failure. I saw someone that I couldn't understand why my dad kept helping. He has never, ever let me down. And the way I threw away his money, threw away his care, it it was this pointless anger, because for a lot of healthy people, or at least people who are not in active addiction, anger can often be a motivation to cause change. But in my case, it just, it led to self-pity and self degradation. And I could not see at any point ever being worth anything. Plus the lifestyle things. I've had 22 different jobs. I have moved house 17 times. I have had so many short-term, impulsive, destructive relationships. And the numbers, I've written off 2 cars. I have been arrested once, 50 hours of community service for that one. The numbers just kept adding up. Plus, by the end, I dropped out of the same degree twice. I tried to go back to my degree, hoping it would solve my problems, trying to motivate myself. And I dropped out again, and I just couldn't understand why anyone was still with me and still tolerating me, and why their disappointment of me was not as huge as the disappointment I had in myself, if that makes any sense. Our first counseling session, I said to her, I don't know when I'm lying anymore. I don't know when I'm acting. I've acted. I've been doing speech and drama since I was 5, and I don't know what my genuine self looks like anymore. So I will lie to you and manipulate you, and a lot of the time I won't know I'm doing it. And I need to know that you'll be able to call me on that, because I will do it without shame. And I do not even know if I want to recover or not. That is how little I know myself. My history and my past behavior seems to dictate that I never, ever want to get well. So I can tell you I do, and it may not be true. I have no idea. And who approaches a patient or a client who makes that admission and actually says, I'm going to stick with this girl until she is better? Who does that? That takes a special person. It was not like trust at first sight. I've done it so many times before, and I know, in and out of therapy and seeing counselors, I was just going through the motions. They assigned me a counselor at Crescent. That counselor assigned me to Nikki. It was just part of the routine that I had played out so many times for so many years that I was just going with it. And even making that admission could have been manipulation, could have been acting. I was so distrustful of myself that even saying, I don't know when I'm telling the truth, could have been a lie. There was so much bullshit that she had to cut through. I can't pinpoint a moment where I thought this is going to work. I can actually call this person important and someone I can put myself in hands. I can put, you know what I mean. I can put my trust in. I just sort of found myself going back week after week. And when I started seeing improvements that I hadn't expected, and when I started looking forward to sessions, knowing that I would be completely heard and completely called on bullshit and completely cared for all at the same time, it was just things I started noticing over time. And I just never wanted those experiences to end. I wanted to make her proud. I wanted to show her who I could become and what I was capable of, because she challenged me to do that. Without saying those words, she was showing me what I could become and what I could do, whether I believed it or not. And you get the sense with her that she believes it. And the major thing was that she seemed to know me better than I had ever known myself. That's a cliche, but fuck it, because that was the feeling. I felt like she could see me. Through masks, through bullshit, through pretend personalities, through lying and manipulating, to the point where I started noticing that I would show up for a session and I wouldn't be wearing any of those masks. It surprised me that I started becoming genuine, and it felt okay and it felt safe. She's always made me feel safe, and I love to make her laugh as well. She gets my sense of humor. It's just the most powerful relationship, therapeutic relationship that I've ever had. The thing that stands out is that she changed the way I looked at myself and my place in the world. I had very unrealistic expectations of myself, and I projected expectations onto other people, where I thought I had to be the perfect daughter and start paying my dad back the millions that I likely owe him, and start standing on my own from day 6 or 7. And I would punish myself emotionally when I didn't achieve what I felt I should achieve. She has this approach where should and could and would are not okay, because they are words that describe things that others do that you feel obliged or pressured to do, or they describe things that an unreal fictional version of myself is expected to do. This is getting way more complicated than it should. Basically, she acknowledged tiny things that I did, tiny improvements, making appointments with a dietitian to sort out my eating is a huge step that she acknowledged, but she would acknowledge all the little steps beforehand, like doing a Google search about someone in my area. She took on board every achievement and helped me see even things I called failures as achievements, because she very much reassured me that I cannot be expected to sprint before I've learned to crawl. Another cliche, but it was so reassuring. And she has to keep reminding me of this as well. I don't know how she keeps track of when I start to doubt myself, but she has methods that build self-worth. She does run a lot of self-esteem workshops, and I've attended 2 of them. I'm also in a support group, a weekly support group that she started. And there's just this reassurance that I'm doing my best all the time, that my best is good enough, and that how I see what my best should be is not real and not fair to ask of myself. And she has never asked me to do better than my best as well. And she has never shown disappointment or any kind of harshness when I stop doing my best. As long as I'm honest about it, she will just remind me of what I can become. And I find myself wanting to become that for myself as well. And I'm a pretty cool version of myself at the moment. And I don't want to, a lot of the times I've stopped counseling and therapy when I think, cool, I'm cured, I'm better. And I don't want to, because there's always a better person I can become. Not in terms of I should expect more of myself, but I want to see more of these little achievements. And I'm less likely to notice them and celebrate them without someone like Nikki seeing them for me and seeing me. And I'm going to stick with her for as long as I possibly can, because I've never encountered someone like her. I think a lot of it is to do with her own history, and how she's not coming from some kind of cold academic background where you tick boxes and you tick off symptoms and you give a diagnosis and you start working through the textbook, which I've experienced before. She's real, and there's never any pretense. There's never any kind of box ticking that happens, or box putting. I've never been put in a box. I've been allowed to become whoever I want to be, and she celebrates that, and it's awesome. Now I have a very good old friend who was in trouble, and mutual friends of ours did a sort of intervention, and that mutual friend asked me who I would, what he should do for our friend who was, at rock bottom, alcoholism wise. And I said, people recommend their counselors, like they recommend their tattoo artists, see my guy, he's the best, everyone, everyone ups their own people. But I said, let her talk to him, let her see him. And there were instant judgments. They looked her up, and they made prejudiced judgments just about her appearance. They thought, he's never going to open up to her. And I said, like, you know what? Just fucking try, just fucking try, be honest to this woman and see what happens. Just see what starts changing without you even, you will start getting better without realizing that you'll get better, because you'll suddenly have this influence and this presence in your life that just cares before she knows you. She holds people, I think, from day one. I've seen her so involved in other people's recovery, in their relapses, taking on more than any one person should. And she never falters. And that's what I would say to a new person. Like, go for it. Throw anything you want to at her. Throw your judgments at her. Throw your prejudices. Throw the assumptions that you're going to make, and just see it work regardless. I didn't try very much. That's the thing. I mean, I've done self-esteem workshops, not self-esteem, I've done eating disorder outpatient workshops. I've done DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, at Tara. I've bounced between psychologists and psychiatrists. And it was a weird balance between seeking help but not staying with help. That makes sense. I would constantly talk myself out of any kind of therapeutic relationship. I've never read any self-help books. And the last time I tried the 12 steps was not genuine, and became very disingenuous. And the combination of the two, I don't know. I wouldn't say nothing I tried before worked. It likely could have worked at any point. I just never completely wanted it to work. Didn't have much trust that it would work, so I would give up. I would just bail at some point, or I'd not put any effort in, and I could say I tried. And this is the one thing I've stuck to, because I went in not expecting it to work, and it started to work. I started to start working, and I started wanting to get better. And I put that down to Nikki. She just has methods, and she has a way about her that I didn't want to quit until I saw it through.